Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aida. I'm from class C. In this video, I will read my summary as part of the midterm assignment for the language testing course. 1. Assessment concept and issues. This material provides a broader understanding of the concept of assessment is not merely about giving grades to students, but rather an essential and ongoing process throughout the teaching and learning cycle. Assessment refers to observing and evaluating students' progress continuously, while testing is a formal part of assessment, such as exams. There is also distinction between measurement, which involves quantifying students' abilities with numbers or scores, and an evaluation for decision making, such as promotion or remediation. There are two types of assessment based on form: informal assessment, such as direct feedback from teachers or classroom observation, and formal assessment, like written exams. Assessment also has two functions: formative, to help students grow during the learning process, and summative, to evaluate the final learning outcomes. This material also introduced five types of tests in language learning. Number one, achievement test measures student understanding of the material that has been taught. Two, diagnostic test identifies students' weaknesses for improvement. Three, placement test determine the appropriate level or class for a student. Four, proficiency test assesses general language ability regardless of the curriculum. 5. Aptitude test predicts student potential in learning a language before instruction. There is a shift from traditional approach that assess language ability separately, for example, grammar and vocabulary, to integrative and communicative approach that emphasize language is used in real life context. Performance-based assessment is also highlight which focus on tasks relevant to everyday life. The material also discussed several current issues, including dynamic assessment, which sees student potential to grow with guidance and interaction, assessment of pragmatic competence, which evaluates the use of language according to social context, use of technology in testing, such as computer based adaptive tests, automate scoring, and the integration of tech improve testing efficiency and authenticity. Assessment plays a key role in education, not just scoring tool, but also as a strategy to understand, guide, and develop student abilities more thoroughly and meaningfully. 2. Principle of language assessment. This session focused on the fundamental principle in language assessment, which is the process of evaluating one's language proficiency, including listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. Seven main principles guide the development and implementation of effective language tests. 1. Validity. A test must truly measure the ability it intends to assess. For example, a reading comprehension test should assess text understanding, not just vocabulary. 2. Reliability. The test should produce consistent result, unaffected by external factors such as time or test versions. 3. Practicality. The text should be feasible to administer and grade in terms of time, cost, and resources. 4. Authenticity. The text should reflect real life language use through tests involve like reading articles, writing emails, or listening to conversation. 5. Watchback. A good test should have a positive impact on teaching and learning. 6. Fairness. The text must be unbiased and provide equal opportunity for all test takers. 7. Transparency. The purpose of and scoring criteria must be clear so that learners can prepare properly and understand how their performance is evaluated. These principles are essential in designing tests that are not only valid in content but also fair, practical, and beneficial for the overall learning process. 3. Designing classroom language tests. Designing classroom language tests is a systematic process of creating evaluation tools that align with learning objectives and student abilities. A well-designed test reflects student learning needs, instructional goals, and classroom context. The process involves more than just writing question. It includes determining test content, format, and scoring methods to ensure that result truly represents student abilities. The first step in designing test is to clearly define its purpose, whether the goals is to measure achievement, identify weakness, or place student of the correct level or placement. The test format and type of task must align with the target skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Each skill requires a different assessment strategy. For example, speaking is usually assessed with oral task or observation rubric, while reading can be evaluated using multiple choice or short answer question. Key principle must be considered in the design process. Validity, ensuring the test measures the intended construct, reliability, consistent result across time or evaluators, authenticity, tasks resemble real-world language use, flashback, the test should support positive learning outcomes. Technical aspects such as clear instruction, appropriate difficulty level, and ease of grading are also essential to ensure fairness and effectiveness. When these elements are fully integrated, the resulting test can accurately assess student language abilities and supporting their learning. For standard-based assessment or SBA is an evaluation system that focuses on measuring student performance against established learning standards. It aims to ensure that a student meets specific competencies in a subject area. Unlike traditional tests, SBA emphasizes meeting defined benchmarks instead of comparing student performance against one another. The standards used in SBA are usually detailed competencies aligned with specific subject, curriculum timelines, or multi-year programs. Under standard-based education or SBE, all students are expected to achieve measurable and concrete learning outcomes. TESOL, for example, developed 9 ESL content standards under 3 educational goals, although these were seen as lacking in detail for assessing bilingual or English language learners. To improve standardization, several US states adopt Common Core State Standard or CCSS for English, math, and science, allowing consistent learning goals across different regions. Designing English language standard involves many components such as the first skills, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, language domains from phonology to pragmatics and sociolinguistic, specific needs to ELD students across 13 grade levels, reasonable number and scope of standard, teacher qualification and training, tools to assess student performance effectively. An example of SBA implementation is the English language proficiency assessment for California English Language Development Standard. It replaced the older ELP test to provide more valid, fair, and inclusive assessment. Other systems include CASAS for adult education and workplace language needs and SCANS designed by the US Department of Labor, which focus on functional language and higher order thinking skills. Fenner and Coleman 2012 also emphasized 5 key domains of teacher standard: language, culture, instruction, assessment, and professionalism. SBA and standardized testing come with challenges such as test bias, unequal advantage due to question content or structure, test driven teaching, overemphasis on test prep can hinder deeper understanding. Solutions include using inclusive, diverse test question, regularly checking validity and reliability, accommodating students with special needs, applying student-centered learning, balancing standardized tests with practical assessment. The material concludes with ethical concern rise through critical language testing. Chanami, Conan, McNamara, and others argue that assessments are not neutral. They reflect ideological and political values when designed without technical consideration. Tests can disadvantage learners rather than support them. SBA can enhance education quality when fairness, diversity, and meaningful learning are prioritized in the assessment process. 5. Standardized testing. Standard testing refers to assessment design, administered, and scored systematically using uniform procedure and criteria. These tests are commonly used to evaluate English proficiency in a native speaker and are often required for academic admissions, immigration, and professional certification. Examples include TOEFL, IELTS, PTA Academic, and MILAB. Such tests go through a rigorous development process, including defining objectives, drafting specification, writing and validating questions, and setting scoring or reporting system. Scoring can be automated human-based or a combination and is typically broken down into section scores and total scores. Advantage of standardized testing: efficient and suitable for large groups, fast result, profile validity and reliability, and disadvantage: potential misuse, for example, using a general proficiency test as an achievement test, question bias, disadvantaging some groups, might not reflect true language ability, especially in multiple choice format. Various framework are used in standardized testing. TOEFL measures listening, reading, speaking, and writing. SWINE 1990 integrates grammar, discourse, and sociolinguistic features, actively used from novice to superior all skills. Tests like PTA Academic undergo continual validation. CASAS and SCANS assess adult and workplace language skills, focusing on functional language and critical thinking. Ethnical concerns are also addressed through critical language testing, which question whether tests support or hinder equitable learning.